Right now, your dog is lying on the couch. Or maybe they are asleep on the rug, or sitting by the window. Look at them. Seriously, if they are in the room with you right now, just look at them for a second. You know the exact posture I am talking about. The chin resting on the paws, the slow breathing. And then you shift your weight, or you sigh, or you just turn your head, and immediately their eyes flick up to meet yours. They do not get up. They do not bark. They just look at you with that quiet, intense, unbelievably soft gaze. And in that moment, you feel it in your chest. You feel this overwhelming certainty that this animal loves you. But here is a question nobody actually asks, because we are too afraid of the answer. Do they? Do they actually love you? Or is it just a brilliantly evolved survival strategy? Not as in, do they recognize you? Obviously, they recognize you. They know your smell. They know the sound of your car engine 3 blocks away. They know that when you put on those specific shoes, it means a walk. We are not talking about basic biology and conditioning. We are not asking if they know where the food comes from. We are talking about the internal experience. Is there a spark of real, unselfish sensation inside them that feels like what you and I call love? Is being them in that moment like something beautiful? Because the skeptic in your head, or the skeptical friend who always ruins the party, will tell you that it is all just a projection. They will say that you are taking a furry creature, dressing it up in human emotions, and lying to yourself. They will tell you it is just a sophisticated algorithm. You provide calories, they provide proximity. A vending machine for affection. And for centuries, philosophy and science backed that skeptic up. René Descartes, the famous 17th century philosopher, basically said animals were just fleshy machines with zero internal life. No thoughts, no feelings, just reflexes. If they cried out, it was just the sound of gears grinding. And if Descartes was right, that is a terrifying thought. What if we are wrong, and there is nothing in there? What if we are pouring our hearts, our time, and our tears into these creatures? We buy them birthday cakes, we hold funerals for them, we spend thousands of dollars on their vet bills, and they are just biologically programmed to tolerate us for the kibble. But what if we are right? What if someone is actually home in there, feeling the exact same frequency of attachment that we feel, and we have just been too arrogant to admit it? And this is the rabbit hole we are going down today. Buckle up, because the science of what is actually happening in your pet's brain is about to get beautifully weird, and the evidence for it genuinely melts your brain. Let's start at the very beginning. What does it even mean to know you are connected to another living thing? Let's start with the most obvious thing, the gaze. We just talked about how your dog looks at you. It turns out that look is not just a cute habit, it is a biological hacking mechanism. Back in 2015, a researcher named Takefumi Kikusui at Azabu University in Japan decided to figure out exactly what happens when a dog and a human make eye contact. Kikusui brought dogs and their owners into a lab. He took urine samples from both the humans and the dogs before they interacted. Then, he just let them hang out in a room for 30 minutes. The owners petted their dogs, talked to them, and crucially, looked them in the eyes. After the 30 minutes, Kikusui took urine samples again, and the results were absolutely staggering. In the owners who had long periods of eye contact with their dogs, their oxytocin levels spiked by 300%. Oxytocin, if you do not know, is the love hormone. It is the exact same chemical that floods a human mother's brain when she looks at her newborn baby. It is the biological glue of trust and attachment. But here is the wild part. The dog's oxytocin levels spiked by 130%. Sit with that for a second. The dog is looking at you, and their brain is releasing the exact same chemical cocktail that your brain releases when you look at a child or a partner. It is an interspecies oxytocin loop. The dog looks at you, your oxytocin goes up. You feel affectionate and pet the dog's oxytocin goes up. They look at you more, your oxytocin goes up again. A little brighter, then a little brighter, and a little brighter still. And you might say, well, animals just do that. No, they do not. Wolves do not do this. Kikusui ran the exact same experiment with wolves that had been raised by humans from birth. These wolves liked their handlers, they played with them, they took food from them, but they rarely made eye contact. And when they did, there was no oxytocin spike. Zero. Because in the wild, eye contact between predators is a threat. It means I am going to fight you or I am going to eat you. But somewhere along the line, thousands of years ago, a group of wolves sitting near a human campfire figured something out. They figured out how to hijack the human maternal bonding system. They looked at us not with aggression, but with vulnerability. They learned to speak our chemical language. And in doing so, they changed their own brains. They do not just tolerate us. Biologically, chemically, they are quite literally in love with us. Yes, exactly that. Okay, that is settled. Dogs are biological love machines. Now forget everything I just said because we need to talk about cats. And you are about to say, come on, cats do not love anyone. Cats view humans as highly inefficient servants who are constantly late with the wet food. If a dog is a toddler, a cat is a cynical roommate who does not pay rent and judges your outfits. It is a great joke, but it is scientifically wrong. Let me throw you something even wilder. In 2019, a researcher named Kristen Vitale at Oregon State University wanted to test cat attachment, and she used something called the secure base test. This is a classic psychological test originally designed for human infants. You put a baby in a strange room with their mother. The baby explores a bit, then the mother leaves. The baby gets stressed and cries, then the mother comes back. If the baby is securely attached, they will run to the mother, get comforted, and then go back to exploring the room, confident that their safe base is there. Vitale did this with cats. She put kittens and adult cats in a strange room with their owners. 2 minutes together, 2 minutes alone, 2 minutes reunited. The results? Roughly 65% of the cats showed a perfect, secure attachment style. When the owner left, they stressed out. When the owner returned, they went to them for comfort, rubbed against them, and then calmly explored the room. 65%. Do you know what the percentage of secure attachment is in human infants? 65%. It is the exact same ratio. Cats are not aloof because they do not care. They are just fundamentally different animals. Dogs are pack hunters. They wear their hearts on their sleeves because pack cohesion keeps them alive. Cats are solitary hunters. They do not have the evolutionary hardware for grand, theatrical displays of affection. Their love is quiet. It is a slow blink across the room. It is choosing to sleep at the foot of your bed when they have the entire house to hide in. Science can describe the mechanism, but it cannot crawl inside the experience itself. Yet the data tells us they are securely attached to you. You are their safe base in a terrifying world. But if you think that is strange, wait, it is about to get much deeper. Because hormones and behavior are one thing, but can we literally see the love inside an animal's physical brain? And this is where the story takes a sharp turn. Enter Gregory Burns, a neuroscientist at Emory University. Around 2012, Burns had a crazy idea. He wanted to put dogs into an fMRI machine to scan their brains and see what they actually cared about. Now, if you have ever had an MRI, you know this sounds impossible. You are shoved into a tiny, claustrophobic tube, and the machine sounds like a 90 decibel jackhammer having a panic attack. Humans can barely handle it. To scan a dog, you usually have to heavily sedate them. But if you sedate a dog, their brain activity drops and you cannot measure their emotions. They had to be fully awake, fully conscious, and completely still for minutes at a time inside a screaming metal tube. So, Burns did not force them. He and his team spent months training dogs to wear custom-made earmuffs to block the noise. They built mock MRI machines in people's living rooms. They trained the dogs to walk up a ramp, place their chins on a little block, and just stay there voluntarily. If the dog wanted to leave, they could leave, no restraints. Once the dogs were in the real machine, awake and happy, Burns ran a smell test. Dogs live in an olfactory universe. Their sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more sensitive than ours. Burns presented the dogs with 5 different scents on cotton swabs. Their own scent, the scent of a familiar dog, a strange human, and the scent of their owner. When the dogs smelled the familiar dog, their brains reacted. Makes sense. But when they smelled their human owner, a very specific part of the brain lit up like a fireworks display. It is called the caudate nucleus. It is the brain's reward and pleasure center. In humans, the caudate nucleus lights up when you anticipate something wonderful. It lights up when you hear your favorite song. It lights up when you are intensely, romantically in love and you see a photo of your partner. And in these dogs, it fired hardest only for the scent of their human. Not for the strange dog, not for the strange human. Their own species did not trigger the same joy that their human did. They do not just love us, they prioritize us. They have rewired their fundamental biology to make us the center of their emotional universe. And the honest answer is, nobody expected the signal to be that clear. It was undeniable proof, printed on a brain scan. So here is where it gets interesting. We are comfortable with dogs and cats loving us. We invited them into our homes. We engineered them for it. But what about the animals we did not invite into our living rooms? Let us talk about farm animals. Christian Nauroth, a researcher studying animal cognition, ran an experiment in 2016 with goats. Goats are not pets for most people. We domesticated them for milk, meat, and wool, not for companionship. We have never bred them to look us in the eye. Nauroth gave goats an impossible task. He put a piece of food inside a plastic box that the goat could see but could not open. When a wolf or a wild animal faces an impossible puzzle, they just keep trying until they give up. But what did the goats do? They tried for a few seconds, and then they stopped. They turned around and they looked directly into the eyes of the humans standing in the room. They alternated their gaze, looking at the box, looking at the human, looking at the box, looking at the human. It is a behavior called human-directed visual orienting. They were asking for help. An animal that we consider livestock, an animal with a completely alien mind to ours, understood that the weird, hairless biped standing in the corner had agency, had power, and might be willing to assist them. They reached across the species barrier. And recent studies show that cows, pigs, and even horses can read human facial expressions. Horses can remember if you smiled or frowned at them yesterday, and they will adjust their behavior toward you today based on that memory. And if we step completely outside the realm of domestication, things get genuinely mystical. Have you heard of Lawrence Anthony? He was a conservationist known as the Elephant Whisperer. He ran a reserve in South Africa and saved a herd of violent, traumatized elephants that were scheduled to be shot. He spent weeks standing at the fence line, just talking to the matriarch, calming her down, proving he was not a threat. Over the years, they formed an incredible bond. In 2012, Lawrence Anthony died of a heart attack in Johannesburg. His house on the reserve was miles away from where the elephants normally roamed. But shortly after his death, two herds of wild elephants began a march. They walked through the African bush for 12 hours in a single file line. They arrived at Anthony's house and they just stood there. For 2 days, they kept a vigil outside the home of the man who saved them. They had not visited the house for over a year and a half, yet somehow they knew he was gone. How did they know? The honest answer is, we do not know. Maybe it was infrasound. Maybe it was a shift in the behavior of the humans on the reserve. Maybe we will never know this. Science can explain the distance they walked, but it cannot fully explain the grief that moved their massive legs. They remember, they grieve, they come back. But here is the part we do not like to talk about. And now I have to tell you the other side of this. Because if we accept that they feel love, if we accept the oxytocin, the secure attachment, the caudate nucleus lighting up, the cross-species reaching out, then we have to accept the flip side of that coin. Love is not a free ride. Love has a shadow, and the shadow of love is grief. If they can love like us, they can break like us. We all know the story of Hachiko, the Akita in Japan, who waited at the Shibuya train station for nearly 10 years for his owner who had died at work. We tell that story as a beautiful testament to loyalty. We make movies about it. We build bronze statues. But think about the biological reality of that story for a moment. Think about what was actually happening inside that animal. It is not a cute fairy tale. It is a neurological tragedy. When an animal bonds with you, their brain builds an entire architecture of expectation around your presence. Your smell, your voice, your routine, these become the stabilizing pillars of their nervous system. When you disappear, that architecture collapses. Veterinarians and shelter workers see this every single day, and it is the thing nobody puts on the cute infographic. When an owner dies, or when a deeply bonded pet is surrendered to a shelter because the family is moving, the animal goes into a physiological freefall. Their oxytocin plummets. Their cortisol, the stress hormone, floods their system. They are trapped in a state of hyperarousal and deep confusion. Many dogs and cats simply refuse to eat. They develop something functionally identical to human depression. Their immune systems crash. There is a documented medical condition in humans called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, broken heart syndrome, where severe emotional grief physically stuns the heart muscle. Vets are increasingly realizing that animals experience a version of this too. They can, quite literally, die of a broken heart. And this is where it stops being funny, and the ethical weight of what we have done hits you. We played God. Over thousands of years, we took wolves and wildcats and wild creatures, and we systematically bred the independence out of them. We engineered them to be perpetual toddlers. We selected for the genes that made them look at us, depend on us, and love us unconditionally. We created a creature whose entire emotional universe is tethered to a human being who has a mortgage, an 8-hour workday, a smartphone that distracts them, and a lifespan that is 5 times longer than the animals. We brought them into our world, we made them love us, and then we leave them alone in empty apartments for 10 hours a day. Or we outlive them. Or, far worse, we surrender them when they become inconvenient. The capacity to feel deep, genuine, brain-altering love is the exact same capacity that allows them to feel absolute, crushing despair. The one who feels and understands, that is exactly the one suffering at our hands. Every time you leave the house, for a brief moment, they do not know if you are ever coming back. And their grief is the tax on the love we so casually demand from them. Take that in for a moment. The responsibility of it is staggering. So where does that leave us? Are we just monsters who trapped a bunch of animals in an emotional hostage situation? No, I do not think so. Let us reassemble the picture. Because while the darkness and the grief are heavy, they are not the end of the story. They are the proof. The very fact that they can suffer the loss of us means that the connection we share is not a cheap trick of biology. It is real. We live in a universe that, as far as we can tell, is mostly empty, mostly cold, and completely indifferent to whether we exist or not. We walk around in these fragile human bodies, carrying our anxieties, our fears of the dark, our dread of the future, desperately trying to feel seen by someone. We build cities, we write symphonies, we launch satellites into the void, all just to say, I am here. Are you? And right here, in our living rooms, sitting on the rug, is an entirely different species. A creature that does not speak our language, does not understand our mortgages, does not care about our past mistakes or our Sunday night existential dread. A creature separated from us by tens of millions of years of evolutionary history. And yet, somehow, across that massive abyss, we found each other. We learned to translate our neurochemistry into care. The honest truth is, we will never fully know what it is like to be a dog, or a cat, or a goat, or an elephant. We cannot crawl inside their consciousness and map the exact texture of their joy. But we do not need to. The bridge exists. The oxytocin spikes. The brain lights up. It is a heavy truth, yes, but it is also one of the most breathtakingly beautiful things in the known universe. We are not alone. They are right here with us, sharing the weight of being alive. So look back at the couch, look at the dog or the cat or whoever is keeping you company right now. It is the same animal you looked at 20 minutes ago. The room has not changed. But now you know what is happening behind those eyes. They are not just waiting for food. They are not just running a survival program. When they look at you, their brain is flooding with the very chemical that makes life worth living. You are the center of their map. You are their safe base. You are their whole world. Try to be worthy of it. If you've got a pet nearby, go scratch behind their ear right now and tell me in the comments, what is the one weird, small thing they do that convinces you they actually love you? I read these, and honestly, we all need those stories. If you want to keep looking at the ordinary world through completely different eyes, hit subscribe and join us. There is always another rabbit hole waiting. See you next time.